Hello, YouTube. It's me, David Harry. Yes, that David Harry, the best YouTuber in the whole wide world. Right, alright YouTube, it's me, David Harry, and what I'm going to do in this video is do an unboxing of this thing here, right? Oh, by the way, there's some tool with a drill somewhere, so we might be getting drill noises and stuff. Anyways, right, which is pretty ironic for a channel that does stuff to do with microphones. Although, to be honest, I mean, this is a bedroom, do you know what I mean? It's not like it's a booth or anything. Anyways, what I'm going to do is get into this in a second. Now, just to be clear, this is just an unboxing because I'm gagging to get this thing out of the box and get on and do some stuff with it, right? So what I'm going to do is just unbox it, do some close-ups of it so we can have a clear look at what it's all about. And then I'm going to follow this video up very soon with a bunch of other stuff. Do you know what? I could have got this video prepped properly before I started it. Right, give me a second, right? There was a prop here that I was meant to use, okay, which is covered in crap. Hold on. Like, there's all kinds of USB stuff and SD cards and chargers on top of my Behringer UMC. Is it UMC U40 UMC 202 HD? I should have led with this, right? What it is, I'm going to do a quick unboxing. We'll have a little close look at it. Not the UMC, I'm going to show you that in a sec, for a good reason. But I need to quickly get into this so I can start trying it out. Because here's the thing, this thing here, this UV1, is it? Yeah, it is the UV1. The Ultravoice UV1 by Behringer. This could end up being one of the biggest deals for YouTubers because if it's anything like, in fact, let me just refer to this, right? This is the Behringer UMC 202 HD. Now, this is a two in, two out USB audio interface, and not even just for its money. This is actually a really good interface unit. So if this unit here, which isn't strictly the same kind of thing, this is something slightly different. However, if this has got anywhere near, like, you know, as good a preamp as this has on it and stuff, and the A to D's is good, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is the best thing in the world, but for what it is, it's actually very, very good and really respectable. Now, if this thing here is as good as this at that point, and then obviously the rest of its things are good, I can see this being a major bit of equipment that YouTubers are going to flock to get hold of for their microphone input for various things. And I'll explain that as I get on with it. Anyway, so like I say, if it's as good as that, or at least the same as it, but better, and then obviously its functions are cool, then yeah, this could be one of the best things for any YouTuber doing indoor stuff like this. So let me just open it up here. What it is, me overhead angle isn't wide enough for me to actually do the unboxing of the box, and it actually isn't wide enough for me to get the unit in. But what I'll do, I'll just get it open here, and then I can get close-ups then with the overhead camera of the unit itself. Okay. Right, so in here, first of all, there's a 2-pin power cable there. It did actually, I'm in the UK, this was actually sent with a 3-pin cable as well, separate, so that'll probably happen if you're in the UK. If you use one of those round 2-pin ones, you're going to get that in there. Maybe other territories have the right cable in. It just wasn't delivered that way in the UK. Right, there's a manual there which just goes on the floor. Now, let me get into the box here. Okay. Now the banging as well as drilling, this is doing me head in. Right, comes with a standard USB A to B cable there as well. So that is what you would use to connect to the likes of a computer and stuff like that. However, there's various ways of connecting things like this to various other devices that use USB. And I will be going into a whole bunch of things like that on the channel to do with this unit, as long as it's good. Anyways, okay, let me just, oh, look at this. It's like a scarlet colour, isn't it? I wonder why that is. Right, because Behringer are just not known for ripping anyone off, are they? Right, let me just get into this. Right. Right, I'm just going to stop struggling with this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to open this off camera. I'll go switching now to the overhead shot, and let's have a close-up look at what's on this. Okay then, so to start off with me close-ups, I'm going to do a run across the front of the unit face from left to right, and I'll just go through all the various components that are actually on this unit. So to start off with then, this whole section here is basically the preamp section and the power section. So starting here, our input is actually one of those dual concentric type affairs, which can actually take like an XLR or a 1/4 inch jack on it. Now, I'm assuming that this is like other Behringer units where not only is obviously the XLR a balanced input, but I believe that the what's the name as well, the 1/4 inch socket in the center there, that's going to be balanced as well. Also, this is one of those Midas preamps. Now, as far as I'm concerned, these things are good anyway, do you know what I mean? I've used them on other stuff and whatnot, so whatever, like, you know, manufacturers call their preamps and they call them something flashy and whatnot, it doesn't matter what the name is, it's how these things sound. As far as I'm concerned, these preamps are fine. You know, they're not going to be the best in the world, but then you're not paying like the best kind of money in the world either for stuff like these. So nonetheless, it is a decent preamp on other stuff of Behringers that I've used. Now moving along to here, this is our actual gain stage here for the mic input or the line input, as we can see there. Now next to that, we have got a 48 volt phantom power switch here, so that's going to allow us to switch off and on phantom power for the mic socket there or the XLR. Then next to that, we have got a low cut as well, so that's going to low cut low cut in and out for 80 hertz as well. And then above that there, what we have got is an 8-stage LED for our level indicator, and also at the end of that, it has got a clip light on it as well. Now don't forget, this is only the preamp here, and later further down we're going to have some more leveling, which is going to be our final summing bus for the output. Now at this point here, there is something that I think could be missing here, and that's a pad function. Doesn't seem to have a pad on it, so whether you need that, I don't know really. Yeah, because usually when you go down to the lower setting on the gain structure there, that would normally kind of get you to where you need it to be anyway, if your signals are quite loud and stuff. A true pad system would actually do more than just attenuate at that point as well. However, nonetheless, it does not have a pad on the input. Now, next to that, hold on. What we've got there is a process bypass button. So obviously what this is going to do, when it's switched in, it's going to bypass everything past or after the preamp stage. So basically that being switched in is going to allow the preamplified signal to just run straight through the output and not hit any of the processing. Anyway, the other thing as well, I'll flash on the screen yes or no if these buttons here have got lights behind them, because this is obviously isn't plugged in right now, but on the screen, yes or no, do these have lights on them? Anyways, what I'm going to do is move along here and we come to the compressor. Now in this instance, if anyone's kind of familiar with like older stuff by DBX, like over easy compression and gating, which is what DBX used to do a lot of back in the day, this effectively is an over easy compressor. Once again, it's got an 8-stage LED system up there as well, which is going to give us an indication for our gain reduction and stuff. However, it is just a very simple thing with 2 knobs on, which says drive and density. Now the combination between these 2 things is basically going to automatically apply certain settings that you would have individually on a proper manual compressor. Now, to be dead honest, mostly these over easy things just work amazingly well, and whatever they're doing as far as like, you know, their automation and like the way that they gang up certain things like knee positions and stuff and whatnot and all that type of thing that you would have full manual control of on a normal compressor, these just tend to work really well. And like in the past, the DBX variants of stuff like this have been fantastic. They basically just help to glue stuff really well. So you know, obviously I'm going to get into all this when I start testing it and let people know what it's all about and how it sounds and all the rest of it. But I would imagine that this is probably going to be a very fast reacting compressor. and it's just going to be like, you know, a lot of ganging between threshold and stuff like that to various other parameters that you would normally have on a fully manual compressor. Nonetheless, that's the compressor. Anyway, let me move along here. And the next thing here is a de-esser. Oh, actually, yet the other thing here as well, we don't have any individual bypassing for any of these elements. So it's like, you know, it's either all in or all out. So the problem is here, if you didn't want to have a particular part of the signal chain in place or the processing for the signal chain, you would have to effectively manually switch it off and not bypass it individually. That bypass is for the entire effects section, as it were. Anyways, nonetheless, we are on the de-esser here, and as you can see, we've got a frequency control and a threshold control. Now at the top there, that has got it says dB 1 and 6. I'm not entirely sure how useful that's going to be, but basically what that should tell you is at whatever frequency you've chosen to apply your threshold to, that indicator up there will give you some idea as to like how hard you're hitting that frequency, and I would imagine that's going to be tied to the threshold control there. Now with something like this, I'm going to imagine that this quite possibly is just going to be some kind of like narrow band notch filter or something. I could be wrong. It could be some kind of psychoacoustic process, although well, actually I'm not going to say anything. It's going to be one or the other. I will find these things out when I start using it. I'm not going to start second guessing anything here, because the problem with Behringer is, you know, they get a bit of a bad name for themselves, but do you know what? Some of the effects units that Behringer make are actually really good. So I'm not just going to basically guess that because this is not an expensive unit, that the things it does are not going to be the best things that it could be doing. Anyways, shut up, Dave, move on. Now here we've got an enhancer, and this is basically just going to be like, you know, for two bands, which is going to be low and high. Now I'm not entirely sure where these are going to be tied to as far as the frequencies that they're going to be on, but as opposed to say a de-esser, which might be using a narrow band notch filter, as it were, these things are going to be wideband. So what's going to happen, I'm not even going to hazard a guess actually where the frequency ranges are that these actually center to, but each one of these is going to have basically a position like or a frequency as its center position, but it's going to have a very wide band as far as that is concerned. So you're going to get like a lot of spill either side of that particular frequency. That's normally how these things work. However, I could be completely wrong on that too, because this could even be, once again, something like, you know, what DBX and like Barker's Berry used to do, and Aphex and things like that, which are basically psychoacoustic enhancers and stuff like that. So yeah, that could be what it does, or it could just simply be a wideband, you know, EQ system. Not entirely sure, but nonetheless, I will be testing this stuff further down the line. Now let's come along here to our, what's this? Oh, expander gate. Okay, right, I'm not entirely sure. Let's see, threshold and ratio. Okay, once again, there's going to be a whole bunch of things here that are going to be tied from like your normal manual usage, especially for a gate, for instance. I mean, for instance, this is not going to be a frequency conscious gate or something like that. However, what you are going to find is that, you know, between, you know, the effective expansion and gating and stuff like that, these two knobs are basically going to cover you for most of the things that you're likely to do. And don't forget as well, this is basically designed for dialogue as well. So a lot of the functions here are going to be very much tailored to those specific type of frequencies where, you know, the human voice sits in, or predominantly where it sits in. So these are not designed for anything else. However, I'm going to be trying this on my bass guitar and stuff, because I reckon this could be really cool for that. Also as well, we've got indicators up here for the threshold and stuff. Once again, I think this is a case of suck it and see, and then you will just get used to what it does in use. And whatever the indicators are, which might seem a little haphazard and possibly random, you will get an idea of what they're doing in use. And usually these threshold indicators up here, well, actually it says threshold on it, I was about to say, these types of indicators are normally something which indicates where you're up to with your threshold, and that will usually like tell you whether you're too much or too low for whatever it is that you're doing with a very simple indicator like that. Anyway, let's move along. Now what we've got here is our output gain. So like it said earlier on, the input has got a gain structure on it, and then this output gain here is the final summing output. So what's going to happen here, let me just drive all the way back down here. So what happens here, you get your optimal kind of like input level here for your microphone and whatnot. And once you're happy with that level there, then within the unit itself, its gain structure at this point is going to be good for the interior of the unit, shall we say. So whatever it does within itself to do with its processes and stuff is all kind of like dictated to by this section here. And then obviously when we then go for our output for recording, this is where we would then set the level for the output then to whatever the device is that's doing the recording. Now obviously this has also got a clip light on it, which is self-explanatory. So that's going to let us know if it clips at this stage for the output. However, and you do have to be aware, just because that clip light doesn't come on, it depending upon the gain or what level you're going into on your recording device, you can still clip the recording device, whether that clips there or not. That is just something to do with matching levels between the output of this and the input of wherever it's going to. So use that clip light there as obviously an indicator as to what it's doing within itself. However, you should always be monitoring wherever it's going to for its final kind of like clipping level, as it were, and stuff like that. And if you come down to the last section here on the front, what we've got here are two buttons. This says mix and it's got in and PB, okay, and then next to that it's got the level for the monitor here as well for the headphone out. Okay, so what this is, let me have a quick look. Oh, I know what that is. Right, so basically what we don't have here, we don't have a direct monitor button, okay? So what this mix thing is going to be for here is for when you're using this on a DAW system. So what's going to happen, this here is a balancing control. So what's going to happen is, if this is all the way down here to input, the only thing that's going to be going to the headphone socket here is a level for the actual signal going into the unit. And then if you went all the way over to this end here, then the only thing that you would hear coming out of the headphone socket is the level of the return from a DAW system or whatever digital system you might be using, say on a computer and stuff. So what you would then do, you would then balance these, or you would balance the input for the microphone or whatever you got going in to the return coming back from your DAW. You would get a balance there so that your microphone is at a decent level compared to the return from your DAW using this. And obviously at this point, this is what gives you your direct monitoring, so you can negate things like latency for that round trip. Anyways, yeah, so that's what that does. And then obviously here, that is the final output for the headphone control, which is obviously working from the balance off that button there. Also, it's got a thing here, USB, and that's because this is obviously a USB device as well. So on that point, let me get over onto the back of it. Okay, so the first thing then on the back here, and I'm on the left hand side as we look at it from behind, and this is basically the power input, and this is one of those global ones. So this is going to accept 100 up to 240 volts and also 50 to 60 hertz as well. So no matter where you are in the world, this is going to be cool. You can just plug it straight in without any worrying about putting transformers ahead of it and stuff like that. And by the looks of it here as well, it only draws 15 watts as well. So that's actually quite low, I would imagine, maybe for a unit like this. So that's pretty cool. Now, let me get over to this far side here. And what we've got here is our output. So for the output, we have got a XLR and we've also got a 1/4 inch jack as well. Once again, I'm fairly sure that that's going to be balanced on the jack as well. So what's going to happen here is whatever you do on the front end, this is all going to come out the back here through the line out and stuff. So you set all your levels from the front, and then that's what is dictated to come out the back there. Once again, always kind of look at where you're putting your signal into and let that be the deciding factor as to the final output that reaches here. And I'm going to hazard a guess that that final output is what affects this here. In fact, yeah, it definitely will, because if it didn't, it wouldn't work properly. Shut up, David. Right. So what we're going to do here is have a look at the insert function. Now, the one thing I cannot tell you is exactly where that occurs. Usually that would come, I think, maybe just after the preamp immediately, although sometimes that would would actually be like, you know, like preamp as it were. Usually with a really good unit, you could actually choose pre and post for where this insert would occur in relation to the preamp. Again, there will be a link to the Behringer site here and stuff in the description. You can go and check that out if you want to. However, it's highly unlikely that like a lot of people are going to use the insert function anyway. You definitely won't be doing side chaining and stuff, I wouldn't imagine, with things like this for the nature of the unit anyway. However, you could put other stuff in there if you wanted to. And then what we've got here is another line in. Now this is, I don't know, this is quite intriguing because this says line in R. So that's telling us that the 1/4 inch jack on the front is left and this one is right. So it would appear that this is a stereo unit. However, it is only going to be mono for the purposes of microphones. Now, assuming that it is stereo as far as the line in is concerned, because that's what it's suggesting, then obviously what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to set individual settings, like, you know, for each side or each channel. It's just going to be ganged right the way through for both left and right. But nonetheless, that could be really cool for running like stereo mixers through, or even stereo instruments and stuff like that. And then finally, what we get to here is our USB socket. So again, this can connect to computers and stuff, so you can use your DAW system with it, or basically any recording device which will be compatible over USB. Now, if this is going to be in keeping with other Behringer devices, this is basically going to be a class compliant device. And what that means is that it doesn't need a driver to be used. So there's a fair old chance I can plug this into my iPhone and stuff, and like my iPad, and I will definitely be doing that stuff, because like I say, if this is going to work really well, I'll do a bunch of like individual videos about, you know, specific like use cases for it. However, if you want to do very specific stuff, you may need to download a very specific driver, maybe something for like VST or something like that. So ASIO, not VST, but ASIO. Don't get those two things mixed up, Dave. They are not interchangeable. Yeah. If it needs a very specific ASIO driver, I mentioned VST then because obviously Steinberg created both VST and ASIO. If it needs ASIO, yes, you would have to download a very specific driver. Once again, you can check for that on the Behringer website from the link I'll have in the description below, or indeed if there are any other very specific drivers for other things as well. Although I would imagine something like ASIO for all would suffice if you needed to. But to be honest, because of that direct monitoring function and all the rest of it, usually very specific drivers are going to give you like mostly the ability to go low latency and stuff like that, depending upon what you're connecting it up to, and depending on if like that monitoring on the front is going to suffice for you. You probably won't need dedicated drivers, not even ASIO and stuff like that. Anyways, that's enough. Oh no, wait, there we go, Behringer logo right in the center on the back. Anyway, let me just flip around to the front and end this video. Okay, so to an end summary then, and contrary to what I did say at the beginning of the video, although I did flash up some kind of thing to say, no, it's a lie, I'm actually using it. Right, what it is, I'm actually using it now. So I'm just going to do a little bit right now. This is not a review, obviously. I'll be doing stuff like that in the future. But right now, I'm using it with a TechZone Stellar X2 microphone. Hold on. It's definitely TechZone. I think it's a Stellar X2. Anyway, so I'm just carefully looking at my signal here, and it all looks good. Now, here's the thing, right? I'd initially planned on using this to plug straight into my camera so I could power me overhead mic or any of, like, you know, my studio type condensers and stuff like that, or indeed any microphone I wanted to throw in it. However, and this is actually, I think, a really good point, to be honest. I've got to be careful with my camera, because even on the lowest level for my camera, the output is probably still too loud going in to my camera from the master output bus here on the unit on the UV1. Hence why what I said earlier about don't be looking just at the clip light on the unit itself on the UV1. Always make sure with the destination as to like whether you're clipping or not. Anyways, I'll have to see if I can get around that so I can plug it direct into my camcorder without any issues. However, there is a way of doing that, and that is if I just back off on the input gain to start off with, and then what will happen is obviously that will translate to a lower level at the summing bus. And to be honest, if this is like really quiet and stuff internally and all the rest of it, which so far it would appear to be, yeah, I could back off a bit on the input and then not drive the output so hard from the unit here. And when I say drive it so hard, there's nothing going hot here or anything. It's just if I needed to back off levels to go to an input on my camcorder, which otherwise isn't really going to handle it properly, I could do that. However, what I've done here is something I didn't expect to do in this video. And as we can see here, there's my Mac there. I've actually got this UV1 now plugged into my Mac, and I'm recording right now on DaVinci Resolve. So what you're listening to and watching at the end of the day here on YouTube is actually a synchronized take here. So I'm recording the audio in DaVinci Resolve, obviously all via the UV1, and then obviously syncing the picture off my camcorder to Resolve. So what you're seeing right now is obviously a synchronized picture and audio thing going on. But nonetheless, as soon as I plug this into my Mac, right, my Mac just picked it up straight away. No messing about whatsoever, right? So even before I went into Resolve, it was kind of giving me the option, do I want to use the UV1 as my mic source and stuff? And then obviously for the headphone output. Now, I've got a pair of, what are these? These are Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X's, right? Now, these are quite low anyway impedance, so these are quite easy to drive. However, the output for the headphone amp on this thing here, the UV1, is really loud. So the thing is, these are, I would imagine that even with high impedance headphones, you're going to drive them dead easy with the output off the UV1. It is really good. And, you know, to my ears immediately, it all sounds good as well. I've not gone deep diving and stuff. I did listen to a little bit of music off my Mac running through the UV1 as the D2A in that instance. And then obviously listening on these headphones and stuff, and it did sound great. So yeah, it's brilliant at that. Anyways, as soon as I went into Resolve, it was all there just to be chosen, like, you know, use the output for the UV1 for the headphones and whatnot, but also dead easily in the actual Fairlight page and stuff, the setup to use the output from the UV1 as the input for the channel that I'm now recording on. That was super simple. I'll do videos about all these things. I appreciate this video's mad long and stuff. I just couldn't help myself. But I will do a bunch of things where I'm going to be using like very specific things and do one instance of one thing at a time and not try to like cram a video with too many different things and stuff. Anyways, nonetheless, let me just give you an idea of what's going on here. I might flip this around in a second, but let me explain something first before I do that, in case I disturb anything by moving cables and whatnot. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm using the cable here by Cable Creation, which is going USB-B to USB-C, and I'm just going into any of the ports on the Mac. It wouldn't matter which one I was doing, because all the ports are USB-C compliant anyway. So although the Mac is technically Thunderbolt, that obviously also understands USB-C protocol and stuff. So yeah, this cable by Cable Creation is what I'm using to connect these up with. In fact, there'll be links to everything I'm using in the video in the description below, but if you're interested in connecting a USB-B device to USB-C, this cable by Cable Creation is perfect for that. Anyways, yeah, so as far as the unit is concerned, right, on my input, I'm kind of like getting up to about +6 on the input. Now, that's not overdriving anything or anything like that. It's a very healthy signal as far as the gain is concerned. It's not worth me telling you what the dial is, because that will change depending upon the loudness of someone's voice and also the microphone being used. Obviously, I'm powering the mic as well with the UV1. Now, there's no processing going on to do with gating and stuff like that, or any kind of the enhancements, and I'll kind of do a noise thing in a second. However, I am using the compressor. So at this point, the gain reduction for the compressor is averaging 6 dBs worth of gain reduction. It will peak up to 9 as well. So that's basically where I'm up to with the compressor. Now, what's really good about this, and unfortunately I can't do these tests right now because it'll just extend the video stupid, but as for instance, see this distance I am here on the microphone, although this is still technically a close mic position. For VO stuff, I would get even closer usually. However, with the use of the compressor in the chain, and I still haven't clipped the input, yay! With the use of the compressor in the chain, I can be a little bit more like random with me distance here with the mic and stuff, and even if I pull off this far, it's still gonna hold a good level because it's obviously applying compression right now, so all of those dynamics are being kind of pulled a bit closer together and stuff. But like I say, it's going to allow me to pull away a little bit from the microphones and stuff as well using the compressor. And on top of that as well, that will help me with plosives and stuff, because I do have a loud voice and whatnot. I do like plosive, all kinds of things I do. I've also got a bit of a sibilant voice as well, so it's going to be worth me testing out the De-esser and stuff and whatnot. As for the other enhancements, obviously I'll test them as well. Maybe they're not things that I personally would use, but it's worth testing all these things. Anyway, nonetheless, what I'm going to do right now is just go quiet for a little bit. The only problem is, see these Mac Studios, all these idiots on YouTube who tell you, oh, they're dead quiet, you can't hear them. That's a load of BS, right? You can definitely hear them. You can even hear these when you're doing nothing on the Mac because the fans are always on unless it goes into standby. So when I do the silence now, there's a fair chance, especially because the compressor is on, it might be pulling in some of the noise off this Mac here. But let me just go quiet. I don't know why I do that thing. I'm going to go quiet now and I end up waving my hands around. What's that about? Is that because I'm just a simpleton or something? Anyway, there's some noises coming in through the window as well. But if you did hear noises, as it were, not noise as in hiss, then that would definitely be the Mac. However, I doubt very much you will be hearing much in the way of hiss either. And if there was any there, I'm going to surmise that that would be due to the compressor anyway, pulling stuff up and things, because the noise floor is technically going to increase or higher up with the compressor. Anyways, yeah, there's nothing else going on. And then obviously what I've done here as well with my final output level, I've just looked at the timeline, or I might have clipped that just then, I don't know. I'm just looking at the final timeline in Resolve here, and then I've gauged it accordingly from me send here. Once again, that clip light and that level on the output for your like summing bus at the end of the UV1, don't look at the clip light on there to gauge what's going elsewhere. Always look at the destination to help you dictate, you know, where your levels are going. Now, just a quick one. I usually always add some form of limiting to my YouTube outputs just to raise up levels and stuff. As to how much I will have done in this video, especially to do with this section here, I'm not entirely sure, because the final level for what I'm doing right now will have been dictated to by the previous parts of the video, because I would definitely have had limiters going on with them because of my overhead mic here and raising it up in post. So anyway, what I'm going to do is right now, if I have, and I probably will have still have used a final limiter on this, right now, this is the signal exactly as it has gone in. So this is without any further limiting within my edit. And on that point as well, if depending upon if it is like perceivably much louder with it on and stuff, I'll go quiet again just so we can hear, like, you know, what or if there is any hiss and noise and stuff. Okay, so that should give us a good idea there as to whether or not there's going to be that much hiss, even with like my final limiter coming off as well, because that will again resum stuff, like resum up any hiss levels and stuff. And once again, obviously there's a compressor on. I will go into other things to check the purity of the signal chain with this, or the signal path, in future videos. Anyways, I think that's probably going to sum it up for this one. But I can say right now, obviously but should I commit to say, yeah, I never sit on the fence. I'm dead happy with it, right? Really happy with it. It's basically doing all the things that I wanted. And this plugging it straight into the Mac and using it this way as well. Although I don't usually synchronize audio. There's absolutely no need to do it if you don't have to, right? In this instance, though, I've had to do it only because I've still not worked out my optimum, gain structure to go to the camera. But I'd have to say immediately, this whole thing about plugging it into the Mac and recording into that is just fantastic, and this is definitely something that's going to make a massive difference to a lot of people as well, because a lot of people do offload their audio onto another recording device, and quite often when it's indoors it could be a computer, so that could be Windows or Mac, whatever, doesn't matter, or it could even be a portable device like Android devices or iOS devices, which I will definitely be doing now without a doubt. However, if you're somebody who does a lot of stuff, say like OBS and things like that, and this is where this is definitely going to make a massive difference. Anyone who does OBS, whether that's for gameplay or doing like tutorials and stuff like that, this is going to be absolutely amazing. So right now, unless I find some weirdness with like certain parts of the signal chain and stuff like that, or the processing chain, I'm going to say right now, I'm dead happy with this. It really has immediately impressed me, okay? And, and it's not a lot of money either. I don't want to go into too much about price and cost, because these things change, and they change, in different parts of the planet and stuff. I paid £135 plus postage for this or something like that. I think £140. I think maybe in North America, you guys are looking at about $170, somewhere like that. I have to say, immediately, this is cheap for what it is doing and what you are able to do with it. Anyways, I'm going to have to shut my trap now, because this is going to start sounding like a review, and it most certainly isn't. Anyways, like I've already said, there'll be links to all kinds of things that I've used here in the description below and all the rest of it. And if anyone has got this far into the video, you're mad, because I've just done nothing but talk and talk all the way through it, but I'm dead excited now. And if you have got this far into the video, please give it a thumbs up. Also consider subscribing to my channel, because I'm the best person on YouTube at doing this type of stuff, and you don't want to be listening to the garbage that other people tell you, only the garbage I tell you. Anywho, I'm David Harry. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.